I was like, yeah, do you know her? She's kind of famous. He's like, who? I'm like, Young Kale. She's like, you know Stargirl?
You are now listening to KMONEYHOTLINE.
This is a Stargirl, astrologist, evil genius. How did she do it?
My astrologer, Kayla. If Kayla's, Kayla, it never misses.
Kayla, you have such a gift. It spooks me out.
I was like, Stargirl's that girl.
KMONEYHOTLINE.
And just like that, 10 months later, we are back, people. I'm not even gonna explain myself. 2025 was a doozy. A lot of fun. Ended pretty rough for me. 2026 is the year of done, not perfect. Done, not perfect. Because I'd like to be in a different setup. I'd like to look a little bit better. I have been dealing with some health issues since we last spoke. A lot of my hair fell out. So I'm not feeling very confident in the way that I look. I also feel that I get out of breath a lot easier when I speak, so bear with me. And in my mind's eye, I like to see everything being, fitting this perfect vision before I deliver. But you get less done when you want things to be perfect. Time speeds up and moves so much quicker and feels so much more fulfilling when you minimize the time between the inception of a thought and the execution of bringing said thought to tangible reality, to allowing it to manifest physically. And that's what I'm really trying to work on. Striving for perfection in and of itself is self-sabotage. It's so annoying. So I'm really gonna try to stop doing that. But welcome back, guys. I hope you liked the intro. I had to make it all on my own. One thing about me, I just really like music, and if there's a specific vibe I'm going for, I'm gonna be stubborn about it. Girl, you can't be putting, what the hell song was it? Ice Me Out as your podcast intro. Girl, legally you cannot be doing that. If you have any future in this, if you want to do any career advertisements with your podcast, yeah, you cannot be using Ash Doll's music as your intro, girl. What I thought would work was a no copyright, music producer on YouTube, which, by the way, if you make beats and you make music on YouTube and you have 199 views, I was 198 of them. I'm playing, people who are really out there making beats, music on my laptop constantly all the time. I'm the one keeping your lights on. And I also am a big payer. If I'm outsourcing something and it's something that someone is genuinely better at me than, and I'm not capable of it, and it's incredible work, I'm paying you, I'm tipping you, I'm throwing my money at you essentially. When I see these people who do royalty-free type beats, that I'm always like, bro, one, why is this free? But two, I didn't fully understand the licensing. Basically, I tried to do a free beats thing with my other intro, still copyright. So I had to go on GarageBand. I fell Studio. I was confused. It took me honestly a few hours just to make that little clip, but I hope you guys liked it. It's original, and that's what's important to me. And the actual visual of the introduction, if you're listening to this on the audio version, I wanted it to feel both old and new. I wanted it to feel like a Kayla vibe, which I feel like it is. Blue is my favorite color in my heart and soul, so I wanted it to be blue and silver and black, and I wanted it to feel old with the corny Photoshop effect of the text across the screen, while also new in the sense that I've never seen someone else's podcast intro look like that, I can say that. So, and maybe that's for good reason, but I like it, and that's what's important. And I'm probably gonna change it because every 3 months I'm I am not who I was 3 months ago, and I suddenly want to switch the whole vibe, and that's probably gonna happen. But also, I truly believe that I am a sim and we live in a Sims world, and that we are in a video game, and I was trying to capture that essence in the introduction as well. So I hope that message got across. Astrologically, I promise I'm not going to talk about it a lot. Oh my god, I promise this is not an astrology podcast. But some of the astrology trends that we're having this year are about fame and your character and your ego, this character you play in the video game. You guys know I'm ahead of the curve and I have the cheat codes here, so obviously I'm going to take advantage of them, and I think I'm hitting the nail on the head with where we're going, and I'm just a few steps ahead. If you don't see the vision yet, you will. But without further ado, we can catch up another time. It's a new year, baby. We know astrologically, the zodiacal new year does not start until the spring solstice, until March 20th, 21st, Aries season. So I'm still in that structuring. I'm definitely making changes, but I don't hit the ground running until spring typically. But with that being said, fresh energy. I feel the vibe shift. I feel the new energy, people. I feel it. I started the year off on such a bad note in my personal life. But it's okay, we cleaned it up quick. We did some damage control. I've been dealing with a lot of moodiness. My PMDD has been getting worse. My health has been declining rapidly, and that's fueling the negative side effects of my PMDD being, at worst, like mentally, just very debilitating. And so when I'm in a bad place with the PMDD, it affects my personal life, obviously, and my relationships and my circumstances. And I'm trying really hard to trudge through that. If you can't tell, I'm at the turning point of what hormone would be coming back up right now. I actually do best when everything's very low, everything dipping once again before we shed the uterine lining through menstruation. Sorry guys, but I feel better today than I did yesterday or this whole weekend. That's what I'm trying to say. If I filmed this podcast this weekend, you guys would put me on a watch list. Like, I didn't look good, I didn't feel good, and I was unstable. But here we are. That's another thing I want to open up on another episode. I know that when I did these episodes a few months ago, I like briefly talked about PMDD, but I was literally in it while I recorded it. I feel like I cried in every episode and I only did like 3. Maybe I did 2. I know there was one I completely, like, I recorded the entire thing and I never posted it because I just, like, in hindsight watching it, like when I was editing it a few days later, I was like, oh my god, this is an insane person. Listen, who I am today is not gonna be who I am bi-weekly. That's how much my hormones like impact me. That played a big role in like why I could not be consistent. But I'm really trying here, guys. Again, done not perfect, done not perfect. And in 2026, honey, again, astrologically, I swear I'm gonna be done after this. You are gonna be left behind if you do not get your ducks in a row with the done not perfect approach. Like, speed is the name of the game right now. Not in terms of rushing, but like showing up. Showing up, getting it done, doesn't matter what it looks like. And if you are not capable of that approach, work on it now, honey, because as we get into spring, remainder of the next few years, you are literally, quite literally gonna be left behind and be like, why am I stuck sinking in quicksand while everybody else seems to be moving faster than me or ahead of me? That's why. Another thing to say, I'm channeling this. There are so many people out there that are so much stupider than you, slower than you, dumber than you, ruder than you, actual bad people, less resources than you, all of it, that are blowing you out of the water because you're just not like doing the thing. Because you're like, oh, it's not perfect yet, or I'm not ready yet, or I'll do it when, Please stop. Oh my gosh, shut up. We don't want to hear it. Like, you need to hit the ground running with the things that you want to do. Time's a ticking, okay? Anyways, where was I going with this? Oh, it's a new year. So I was thinking, why don't we do a corny little 25 things that I learned in 2025 episode to kick off the new year, right? Cute, predictable, overdone. We're gonna talk about a few of them today. And the next few episodes, I'm not gonna do what I usually do. I'm not gonna pre-plan them. I'm gonna show up. We're gonna talk about what I want to talk about that day. Because another thing about me, I can't force a conversation if I'm not in the flow state of like talking about that thing. I'm trying to lax on certain things in terms of like forcing perfectionism, overcomplicating things, and I'm trying to push a lot harder with like, girl, shut up. Stop wasting time. Stop with all the hoopla and stop getting in your own damn way. So without further ado, let's talk about these 25 things that I learned. How was everyone's new year? I hope it was incredible. I hope it was better than mine. I wrote this on Substack. I'm trying to be a Substacker now, okay? I'm a big writer, for people that don't know that. I'm a big writer. I'm an incredibly huge reader. I always have been. When I was younger, I did want to get into journalism. I worked for my school's newspaper when I was in elementary school. I had a Tumblr blog. I had another Tumblr blog. I had like 10 Tumblr blogs. Big journaler. And I think there's just some people in this world, you know, we call them yappers nowadays. I think just we have so many more thoughts. We talk a lot more. Maybe we should keep some of the thoughts inside. And there's just a lot of stimulation going on upstairs. And that's not to say it's like good stimulation either, but just like an overactive mind. And I've always had one of those. I've always felt like steam was coming out of my ears. So I'm trying to channel that at least into something that's like tangible, into something like Substack that's like organized and concise and can be digested by other people. One of the things that I have written here is that everything is so personal, yet nothing is personal at all. I think that speaks for itself. I don't think that's something I necessarily have to like extensively elaborate on. Finding the middle ground is probably the hardest part, balancing both truths and them being able to exist at the same time. Everything is so personal in the sense that like in your close relationships, your values and boundaries and standards should be upheld to a certain level of respect in the same way that you hold those standards to yourself and to the people that you show up for in your life. And that is something that's like very personal and should be taken so seriously. But then there's a contrarian argument that contradicts that, kind of argues that like when people do really mess up or hurt you, or you just happen to be something that kind of gets caught in the line of fire of the mess that somebody else is making, it's really not personal at all. And finding that middle ground is hard. I would argue that I think most things aren't personal at all until they are, until something becomes targeted. But that's just like something I tried to remind myself of, is that something my mom raised me on was what Susie says about Sally says more about Susie than Sally, meaning that like what someone says or does, especially if it's about you, usually has kind of like nothing to do about you, more to do with what the person's thinking or feeling and using you as like the canvas that they are projecting onto. Now, that's a dangerous rhetoric when it comes to like if you're actually in the wrong, but I think it's something good to live by when you're kind of having these thoughts of like, I don't understand why this person is treating me this way, or like I don't understand why this is happening. And one of my biggest downfalls in life personally has been trying to figure out the why to everything, trying to justify everything, trying to find reasoning. Because with me, there is usually, I'm very intentional, there's usually reason in why I do everything I do. I think things through for the most part. Unless I'm like intoxicated. That's like probably, I think my biggest mistakes in life happen when I'm hungover, not even drunk, when I'm hungover. That's when my brain is all scrambled from the freaking Molly I take. I don't take Molly, but you get that's what I'm saying. A little Euphoria reference. I'm literally almost 30. Shouldn't be watching Euphoria. Granted, I watched it when I was like, I was an OG Euphoria watcher. I was also an OG Alexa Demi fan. Like, I literally have DMs with her because I went so far back with her. Love that woman. Anyway, where was I? Reel it in, Kayla, reel it in. Ooh, we're almost there. What Susie says about Sally. Oh, so the naive assumption in life is that I often tend to think that everyone's thinking the same way I am. And everyone has the same intentions that I do. No, they don't. That's not because everyone's malicious or bad, but like everyone's on their own little journey. Everyone has their own objectives. Everyone is chasing after their own thing. To be under the assumption that people like think the same way you do is only gonna get you in trouble. You're only gonna get hurt over and over and over again. You have to accept that like not everyone thinks the same way as you do. And I think I just learned very late in life that that's not the case. Whenever something would go wrong or I felt like there was some sort of injustice where I got the short end of the stick or something, I would be like, well, oh, they probably did it because of this. Like I would try to find reason, or I would dig and dig and dig and dig and try to figure out why this thing happened to me, why I had to go through this, you know, even if it wasn't someone maliciously doing something to me. That is a waste of time. It's a waste of brain activity. It's a waste of space to storage in your cloud of a brain to try to figure out like why things are the way they are. Of course, is reflection important? Is introspection important? Yes. When it comes to yourself, you can only control yourself. You cannot control other people. You cannot control the world around you. You cannot control circumstances that cannot be contained. And therefore, you should really only do that much unpacking when it comes to you, because back to the thing I learned this year, everything's not that personal. Like everyone's got their own mess going on upstairs, and a lot of the times, not all the time, but a lot of the time we are just collateral. And even when it is personally targeted and malicious, yes, it feels most personal, but it is least personal. You're just like representing or symbolizing or embodying this thing that someone struggles with, and you just happen to be like in the wrong place in the wrong time of receiving that projection. You guys know I'm like a very big manifestation girl. I'm very big on that. I actually just tweeted, I was like, it's so crazy. Like one of the only things I face a lot of resistance and a lot of feelings of like obligation or guilt or forcing myself to do things in life, whether it's in my relationships, whether it's in my work, like a lot of doing what I think I'm supposed to do and ignoring how I feel about what's actually going on. And that's something I'm really trying to unlearn this year. But with that being said, speaking about manifestation is one of those things that I never have any resistance to. Like that is one of the things that I genuinely enter a flow state speaking about, to the point where I nearly black out, like don't even remember what I say after I like say my last piece, because I feel like I'm like channeling it. Like it feels like there is a direct beam to my head that's like not an external source, like oh my god, we can talk about this all day, but like God, my understanding and perception of what God is speaking through me. And it's me obviously speaking. It's not like I'm possessed by this spirit or something. It's just that I have so much conviction about it that I'm like not even thinking, it's just coming out of my mind, out of my mouth. And so talking about manifestation and essentially like what is like motivational speaking, particularly around when people are struggling with like getting out of abuse and they're dealing with these psychological complexities that I've experienced that I so desperately wish somebody held my hand and walked me through. Those are the topics that like roll off the tongue. Such a flow state for me. And so one of the biggest parts of just when I'm talking about manifestation to people and trying to break down what is these very complex yet very simple concepts into a more digestible form for someone who maybe really struggles with faith or manifestation to better understand, is that like one of the biggest pillars for me is that if you want something because you saw someone else had it, so therefore it's available to you. Like to me that's common sense, and I know to the average person that can like stretch their mind a little bit, but the homework I always try to give people with this is that you need to surround yourself with success stories. Like that is one of the things that I learned this year in terms of just like in your mind's eye, keeping things consistently in your visibility, even in your mental visibility. Meaning, especially like I have ADHD. I have such a low attention span. And because of the health issues I've been having this year, my brain fog is like at such an insane level right now. I can't hold a thought. And so it's very important for me to have both visual and mental systems in place to remind me and pick me back up and refocus me and keep me on track for the things that I need to be paying attention to and remembering. And this goes down to like little chores. I mean, you guys know I have a whiteboard and I have sticky notes, and those two things are going to carry me through my entire life. Putting sticky notes on a whiteboard. I need a list of the bigger picture, and I need sticky notes of the little objectives that are going to help me reach that bigger picture. In order to do those things, I need it in my visual line of sight every single day, because I'm gonna forget. And so when you go through life, especially when things get hard and things come up on your path, and maybe you're dealing with a little bit of seasonal depression, you know, all these little things that come in and tarnish or contaminate clear water, we forget what's available to us, because all these little negative storylines start to cloud our vision and contaminate the way that we're thinking. And because the consistency of those things in our mind's eye that are troubling us, it creates like smog in our ability to see again what we want and what's available to us and how we can actually like be happy and fulfilled, and that the things that we want, we are capable of getting them. By surrounding yourself with success stories in the same way that I keep a whiteboard with sticky notes of my to-do list, having a visual of like the people that you look up to who maybe came from the same place as you, or the people who achieved the things that you want for yourself, that, you know, have the same sort of circumstances or look the same as you, or, you know, went to the same school or something. That is a mental reminder. It proves as affirming evidence that like, hey, that's kind of like you. Like if they did it, you can do it. And it's important to surround yourself with this constant influx of positive affirmation and evidence that like you can get exactly what you want, because it's already been done and you wouldn't have been able to imagine it if it wasn't possible. And you need that positive feedback, because listen, if you don't brainwash yourself first in this lifetime, somebody else is going to brainwash you. Being this empty drone that's like up for brainwashing is available, you know, you're not leading your own path. You are like such a hot commodity. The world wants you to be that way. You are the best person to sell to, the best person to manipulate, the best person to take advantage of. You need to screw your head on straight and brainwash yourself first. Otherwise, you are a free agent to be swallowed whole by someone or something or some agenda outside of you. And I know that sounds like witchy woo-woo conspiracy theory girl, but it's true. That's why people who fall into cults, people who get consumed by politics and it becomes their entire identity, people who lose themselves in controlling relationships, it's because they don't know who they are. Because they don't know who they are, they don't know what they even want. And you need to get very clear on those things. Once you know what you want, or a general idea, brainwash the hell out of yourself with people who have already done it and success stories about it, because if that's the only feedback you're getting, it's not going to seem that insane to you when everything starts going your way. Another lesson, let's see. Touching grass, hanging out with animals, and listening to children generally is going to actually like improve your life and bring you back to what's important and back you to the real world. Touching grass for real, going outside, getting that vitamin D. Girl, you cannot be doing this right now. My cat gets very jealous whenever she thinks I'm speaking to somebody else, so she's messing up the Airbnb furniture that I literally paid a deposit on and I'm not gonna get back. Going outside, getting some sunlight, speaking to children. I think children are the smartest people in the world. I think that they are like the default of best brain quality, best thought quality, best perspectives on life. I think that they are a source of intelligence that needs to be tapped into, and that they are running a whole game on us by us being conditioned into society to believe that they are like so stupid and not worth listening to, and they don't know what they're talking about, and they're not gonna remember anything, so we can kind of talk about whatever adult nonsense we want in front of them. Like, I think we have it all wrong. I also have a very cancelable take on people that are disabled, that are mentally disabled, and therefore if they're physically disabled, like if they're nonverbal or something like that, that they have a better understanding on humanity and the way that we work more than us people who are neurotypical, not including myself in that. I don't know if I'm neurotypical, I probably am not. Us, you know, cogs in society that just sort of play the game and go by the structure and play the game of life in the sense of the board game, actually have it all wrong, and we are like the most dumb, naive, ignorant people, and that people that what we believe to be maybe cursed by these disabilities or these deficiencies or these things that essentially really complicate their experience here might actually be advantages, but we are led to believe that these people are like broken. That's what ableism is. Like, we think, oh, this person's disabled, this person's not able to do these things, and therefore that must suck. When, like, I don't know, that's just one of those passing thoughts I have where I'm like, maybe their condition is actually like giving them an advantage to the way that they think or the way that they're experiencing things, or their ability to like observe from this position that everyone else thinks is like slow, behind. Obviously people who are hateful, like dumb, and they actually have a one-up on us, and like in their mind they might be like, this dumb motherfucker, like I can't believe they think they have a leg up. Maybe even literally. Like I said, cancelable, I don't know. It's just like, it's a thought. Guys, I have a lot of like things that go through my head. Like, I'm really thinking about what I just said, and I probably could have delivered it better, but I think that people that generally are rejected in society are the smarter ones. The ones that understand life better. Children, people that are disabled, people with addiction, people in abusive situations, people that have the odds stacked against them and have dealt very challenging cards. Those are, on paper, the rejects of society, and I think that they're the ones that actually know what the hell is going on. And that's not like a groundbreaking thought either. People that have similarly been in those situations, I'm sure has had that conclusion as well, but speaking to children and people like that, touching grass literally, getting sunlight, and laying with an innocent Annie baby, laying with a damn animal and a creature and matching their breathing, basking in the sun the way that they do, and embracing concept of time not existing is medicine to the heart and the soul. And that is one of those things that really brings you back to earth. Oh, this is one of my favorite ones that I didn't learn this year, but was reminded of why I believe this and learned this to begin with, because of how true it is, and that's that systems will save you when emotions cloud your vision. Systems are things that you have set up in your head as like a protocol in preparation or anticipation for if and when something happens, how you will deal with said thing, with said circumstance, regardless of how you feel. And as a very emotional, sensitive person, when I'm overwhelmed by an emotion, you don't want to make permanent decisions when you're dealing with a temporary emotion, especially if you're someone that's impulsive and, like me, deals with emotions very hard and fast, whether it's sadness, happiness, anger, whatever it is, even the more positive emotions. You don't want to get wrapped up in the heat of the moment and act on it, and then once that emotion passes, because emotions are in motion, you're like, look at the mess that I've made for myself. If only I had followed a structure or some rules. So when I say systems, what I mean is that 1, figure out who you are. 2, figure out what your values are. 3, create standards and boundaries around said values. And the systems come after that. There's no right or wrong to them. It's a protocol that you will have in place if and when you are dealt with a certain challenge or opportunity, so that regardless of what feelings come up for you, you're able to compartmentalize them and say, okay, I acknowledge and accept that I'm feeling these things, but this is my system and how I go about this thing. It does not matter how I feel. I would assume that this comes up when you're someone who maybe does like debate, or when you're someone who works on like law, justice, ethics. That literally is systems, regardless of feelings. Maybe even in competitive like athletics, where it doesn't matter how you feel, these are the rules, this is the protocol. And the reason that this is so important, like I said, being such an emotional, sensitive person, is that in order to minimize your regret and your remorse in letting yourself down and abandoning yourself, that's my problem in this. It's not that I regret something I say because I'm like too mean in the heat of the moment. I don't have an issue with that per se. My issue is that I'm too quick to abandon myself in a situation. I'm too quick to put myself last in order to avoid any discomfort that it might cause. In terms of, by choosing myself, I might be stepping on some toes, and I'm like so afraid for some reason of being a bad person. I don't know where that's learned. I'm just so afraid of it. And so when those emotions of like guilt and obligation and pity come up, even if like I'm not doing anything wrong, I have full justice in feeling the way that I do, like I'm justified in choosing myself, I will still, if based off of emotion, put myself last in order to avoid the negative feeling of I'm being a bad person or I'm being mean. So having the system of, doesn't matter how I feel, if and when this comes up, if this person tries me, or if I feel disrespected, or if this sort of circumstance comes up, even if I feel guilty, even if I feel like I'm being mean, even if XYZ, this is how I will deal with it. And by having those simple systems and rules in place, you're gonna always be proud of yourself. Even if it feels uncomfortable at first, even if in passing you're like, oh my god, this is so uncomfortable, after you go home and end the day following that system that you know will always have this foolproof 99.9 guarantee rate of success in sticking to your values and your boundaries, you're always going to be like, but I'm glad that I stuck to it. Rather than the alternative, which would be, I can't believe I fell for this again. I can't believe I abandoned myself again. I can't believe I got caught up in my emotion again. And that's one of the things that isn't even a lesson of 2025, but is worth living by, for me at least, because that's something that I struggle with. Another one was consistency gets you closer than perfection ever will. That was like one of the big takeaways in the beginning of this podcast and me sitting down and actually finally recording. I think something that I did learn in 2025, my life up until moving to Florida at the end of 2024 was literally birthed to moving to Florida. The first 27 years of my life, 26 years of my life was pretty much, I don't want to say bad, it was all uncomfortable, it was all confusing, and it was all, to some capacity, at least in one area of my life at all times, very painful. So once I moved here, it was like the world opened up to me. I had a very unusual experience where I felt all of my traumas that have lingered and kind of created an identity for myself throughout the entirety of my life lived thus far all stopped and came to a halt pretty much at once in like 2024. And so when I ended the year with moving here, the world quite literally opened up to me, and it was like I finally, for the first time in my life, had options. And I actually got to figure out like what I wanted and try things by choice and not by necessity or obligation. Options are a privilege, and that's the privilege I was granted when I moved here in many different ways. I was granted the privilege of finally having options. In doing so, like, that's very late in life. Not late in a bad way, but late to learn free will almost. And of course I've always had free will, but you know what I mean? Like, I felt like I had been released from a cage. One of the things I think I learned in 2025 was that I don't think you should ever feel guilty for experimenting or exploring, even if you make a mistake in the process. Of course, if you hurt somebody maliciously, intentionally, or you cause damage because you're being careless, that's one thing. But I think regardless of which area of life this is, whether it's romantically, whether it's interpersonally, whether it's financially, whether it's with your body, whether it's hobbies that you're trying, life paths that you're deciding on, locations that you're living in, I don't think you should ever regret or be led to feel guilty or bad for experimenting. And I think a lot of this probably branches off from, again, this concept of like identity, but now involving other people, because a lot of experimentation in life is usually going to, if not directly, indirectly be affecting maybe someone else in your life to some capacity. Other people, you know, we have the relationship with our own identity, and then other people have the relationship with the identity that they've built about us in their head. And some people more than others will struggle when you step out of the bounds of the identity they've casted and expected onto you, projected onto you. And again, this isn't always malicious. Sometimes people are just like, this is who you are. You've always been this way since I met you, or I've known you your whole life and you've always been this way. And when you step into authenticity, you are taking the risk of people that have known you in your inauthenticity judging you and telling you that you're not being real anymore, when it could very likely be the time that you're being real for the first time in your life. And so this creates like a very confusing dynamic, especially if you're someone who, again, like feels bad a lot of the time or feels guilty or never wants to step on toes, where you start to be like, am I not able to trust my own judgment and my own identity and desires and experimentation? And should I be prioritizing what the people who know me, love me, or are close to me are assessing about me, because perhaps I'm losing my marbles and I don't see it? Or am I finally getting my marbles together and everyone else thinks I'm losing it because I've been consistently ignoring my own marbles for so long and like assessing everybody else's marbles and getting them in a row? It's confusing. I have a lot of Neptune aspects in my chart. I'm a very Neptunian person, and the lines are constantly blurred between my perception, my identity, and then other people's perception of me and of my identity, and where we both stand within that, especially within my relationships. I think it's a very personal journey to step out of your own bounds. One, it takes a lot of bravery, it takes a lot of courage, and it takes a lot of like willingness of accepting that with choosing yourself and experimenting with yourself, you are likely going to lose like either the trust of other people or the validation of other people, the approval of other people, because you were one way and they liked you when you were one way, and if that way starts to change, like you're not the person that they liked anymore, and that's okay. Because that goes to another lesson that I have on here, which is that not everything has to last forever. I'm like a big forever girl. This is another thing that I can sit here all day and say I don't know why I'm like that, and I do know why I'm like that. Everything dates back to what we grew up on, or like some parental thing or some conditioning thing early in life, right? But I have always, around attachment, clung to things that I felt I really resonated with, that maybe understood me a little more, or that ignited something in me. Always really sunk my claws in, and like a dog, like sunk my teeth into it and whipped it back and forth in hopes that it would never leave me. And I was gonna say, because the reason doesn't matter. The lesson here is that it just doesn't have to be that way. Everything doesn't have to be like life or death, it's here forever, or it never meant anything. It's a very black and white, extremist, and quite honestly like emotionally mature way of viewing things, is that it was either real if it lasts forever, or fake and never existed to begin with if it ends at some point. That's not forever. That's sooner than forever. Life is about chapters. It's about seasons. We see this in spirituality. We see this biblically. We see this in the weather. It exists for a reason, okay? Some things do last forever, and when they do, hell yeah, baby. Let's run it into the ground. Let's take it to the grave. Other things can be just as valuable by being fleeting. Sometimes the detachment to things, coming in, serving their purpose, and leaving, is like God's greatest gift. So much so better than keeping it around forever. It could do far more damage by keeping it here forever. Whether that's a relationship, an ex, whether that's a friend, whether that's staying in a city, whether that's a job, whether that's a pair of jeans that we know do not fit anymore. They're taking up space. They're clutter. They're getting in the way of like a new pair of jeans that would literally fit you better and feel good. We don't need to be holding on to things forever. Key to life, one of the keys to life is detachment. One of my favorites, again, lessons of life, but one that again I learned. Actually, I don't know if I really learned it this year. In some ways I did, financially I did. Stay ready so you don't have to get ready, baby. This is like something this is Bible to me. This is law. Stay ready so you don't have to get ready. I'm a Virgo moon, okay? I can't help it. I need to be overly prepared for everything. For if and when something happens, I have this solution. One of my biggest forms of demonstrating this practically in life is that I keep things in my purse that I know I'm never going to use, because I know someone else is going to be like, anyone have a lighter? Like, I keep things in my bag knowing that other people are not going to be prepared. And in some ways, like growing up, I was definitely a hoarder. Kayla, you don't need to keep this like felt 99-cent cowboy hat from a middle school party just in case there's a cowboy themed party again 19 years later. Like, we don't need to be doing that. Stay ready so you don't have to get ready is more so a testament to being ready for the things that you want in life, because when they knock on your door, the biggest regret you will have is not being ready to accept the thing that you say you so badly want when you're not even prepared for it. If you wanted something bad enough, you would make room like that thing is going to show up on your doorstep the next morning. Whether this is, oh, I want to be in a relationship so bad. If your dream relationship, your dream man, your dream woman, your dream non-binary, whatever, knocked on your door tomorrow, you probably wouldn't be ready for it with the way you're acting. Look at yourself. You still have therapy to do. You still have these like toxic things. You still keep your ex unblocked. You're still following people that like you hooked up with. Like, act like this person's coming, so when they do come on your path, you're not scrambling. This comes up a lot for people that say they want this like dream business or this dream goal, big thing with career. Girl, get your shit together, especially when you're like self-employed or where you want like this really big offer, this deal or this contract or this client to come through. This is something I learned early on in my business, not in 2025, but the inklings of this playing such a big role in my life, I think came through my business, via my business, which was that, oh, I'm manifesting money, I want so many clients, I want to do so many readings for people, I want to work with celebrities, I want to be such a good astrologer, I want everybody to know my name, I want to be so great at this. You better get that website ready, girl. Because when that celebrity stumbles across you, if they're like, what does this girl even do? Like, I don't understand her website. Why can't you buy anything? Why is the checkout not working? Does she even have reviews? Why are these not organized? Girl, you have to be ready. So when that big moment comes for you, you are prepared and you are the person that is energetically ready and deserving of that desire that you want. This is one of those things that makes me shake my head because I see it with so many businesses, and it's like, oh my God, you are sleeping on yourself. You are getting in the way of your own potential. And again, a lot of the reason that people struggle with this is because they prioritize the perfection over just get it done. Just get it done. Why is it taking you 9 months to work on your website because you like haven't found the right font yet? When 9 months ago you could have got your big client if you just had a website. Like, that's one of those things that drives me to frustration, not because I don't understand why people act that way, but because I am such a large victim of that, and it is frustrating to watch somebody else overcomplicate their situation for themselves in the same way that I do. You don't need to explain yourself to anybody. You can say no simply because you said no, literally because I said so. That's what I'm taking into 2026. Stop saving everyone else and instead save yourself. I think the common denominator here, guys, I'm not picking my nose. My cat is like, has sent a confetti wave in the air of her cat hair. Explaining what somebody did to you is not talking shit about them. And if that person feels like by explaining what someone did to you is talking shit about you, it's because what they did was bad. Like, that's why. If it feels like they're being mean because they're talking about, no, what you did was mean, so when I talk about it, it sounds like I'm being a bitch because you were being awful. Telling the story of how something went down accurately is not talking shit. Release yourself of feeling like a bad person for talking about something that someone else put you through and the negative emotions that come with that. No, here I am saying like, yeah, play with animals, it'll bring you back to earth, and I'm like swatting her away from making noise. I'm sorry, I love you, baby. To yes and that even further, the person who hurt you doesn't get to decide how you deal with how they hurt you. Again, within reason, but they don't really have the authority to say this is right or wrong and how you're dealing with what I put you through. And unfortunately in this life, pain is subjective. So we can't measure how much pain someone is or isn't going through. We just have to believe them at face value. So sometimes the punishment doesn't always fit the crime, but we have to accept that. That's a hard one. That one is like, you know, up to the court of public opinion in most cases, but something that's definitely entered my brain at the closing of 2025. I think the lesson that I want to close this with is that people who truly love you and are down for you and committed and devoted to maintaining their relationship with you because they just love you so much, they're gonna stick around even when you get a little crazy, okay? When you're going through a bad time, when you fuck up, when you make a mistake. Now, this doesn't mean go creating chaos in other people's lives, especially if they care about you. Those are the people you need to be careful with, but unfortunately, with the way life works, we usually hurt the people closest to us that we do love the most because there's the most amount of intimacy there. and transparency and acceptance there. If you go through this life and you're genuinely trying to be a good person, you're not cutting corners, you show up when you need to, you're a good friend, when you're doing good, you're a good person to everyone else, and you slip and you fall and you make a mistake, you start falling off, you're going through a bad phase, the people who really truly love you are gonna be patient with you. And I'm not gonna say they're not gonna care. They will know, I love this person, they're going through something, I'm gonna talk about this with them later. Right now it's about making sure this person I care about and love is good. You need to play that role to other people in your life. But it's very, very, very important and telling to pay attention to who is still around after you've made a mess of yourself and who has gotten farther away, who has created distance, who has punished you for it, gotten mad at you for it, blamed you for it, rather than giving you the human benefit of the doubt. Again, that's very subjective, it's very circumstantial, and there's a lot of nuance to it, but if you're acting with honesty and integrity, you should understand what I'm saying. Okay guys, this was so fun. I'm really gonna try to be good. I'm not even gonna try to hold myself to like a certain day schedule because I just know how I am, and because of how much I ebb and flow, I can't force myself on days that it's just not supposed to happen. But I will try to get this going on a weekly basis. I loved sitting here today. This was kind of therapeutic for me. I hope that whoever is still listening and has gotten through this enjoyed the episode. If there's anything you guys would like me to speak about, talk about, yap about, please let me know. You can follow me at KMONEYHOTLINE on Instagram, TikTok. Young Kales is my personal account on literally everything. YUNGKALEZ on literally everything. If you have any need for advice or questions and you want to send a voice memo as a little like voicemail to KMONEYHOTLINE on Instagram, please do so, because I do want to do an episode that's giving advice or answering questions. Thank you guys for being so patient with me. Hopefully you're welcoming me back with open arms, and I will talk to you soon. Happy New Year!